Greetings, fine peoples. Today we continue our discussion of the actual scent essences behind the tarot trumps and how it all interrelates with the Kabbalah. Now, we have to talk about the essence of Kabbalah itself, and then we're going to have a discussion about Jupiter, which is such an important step in understanding Jacob's ladder, or the ladder as it is also known, or the tree of life. It's ascending up the levels. And Jupiter is the fourth sphere of the Sephirot. It's very important. It's pretty much as far as humanity can climb, as far as the psychic state is concerned. And it also relates to its own form of magic within itself, its own dynamic forces, its own dynamic polarities, and its own intrinsic sense of harmony and both darkness as well. Now, we're going to first, once again, talk about the essence of Kabbalah at a bare minimum, so things will become more clear. This is the second video in a series. The first was about Jasmine and its correlation to the moon, and today is getting towards the subject of Jupiter. Now, the practical application of the Kabbalah in magic involves artistic employment of correspondences, the linkages of colors, scents, tones, astrological signs, and tarot attributions, as well as the qualities of gods and goddesses. When you assemble all of the components of a given archetypal force in your working area, they exert a symphonic effect on your psyche. Since scent is so closely linked to memory, using particular scents primarily in ritual circumstances makes it easy to recapture the feeling tone of past workings. Odors arouse our personal memories, as well as those from our deeper mind, the collective unconscious. Through the years, fragrances have been associated with cosmic forces and their corresponding gods. For example, many people are familiar with the odor of sanctity produced by frankincense burning in Christian churches. Frankincense has a long history of use in cults of solar gods such as Osiris and Apollo. Originally, inspiration implied breathing in a sacred scent along with the force it represented. Scents help create the archetypal atmosphere during ritual. It only takes one whiff of a scent to which your subconscious is conditioned to put you in the frame of mind you have cultivated using ritual. This is the importance of incenses, perfumes, and other ritualistic ways of garnering these essences of scent. Scents can also be used outside of ritual as a means of balancing the personality or emotional nature. You can also employ it in glamour magic. You might find out which elements are missing from your astrological chart, choose the corresponding scents from the Kabbalistic tables, and wear those scents to round off your self-expression. You could also formulate your own astrological scent using the fragrances of your sun, moon, and rising signs or other important aspects of your chart. You can actually smell like your astrological birth chart, and filling in all the little holes gaping in the different areas of the psychic field, your psychic experience, the areas that you're weaker in, you can fill them in with these essences. It is a form of psychic camouflage in so many ways. Because even if you say your dream states are stronger than your clairaudience, or different than your sensing living beings near you, or different than your Reiki feelings, any of this, you can deliberately deceive everyone by assuming everything. Just as the way the color black absorbs all colors, so we don't know what color it is, yet it's all of them. You can do this as well. It's not only will it deceive the outside world, but also project a intense magnetism, the magnetic image. It can help steer you through the world, because understand that once you understand all these topics and these techniques, people, once again, it's hard not to use the word sheepish, but we will move on from that because we want to be very professional at this free educational school, you see. Now, psychology shows us that there are innumerable archetypes, but those on the Tree of Life have been shown by tradition and practice to be the most relevant to man's spiritual growth. So understand that the Tree of Life is by no means a complete system. It leads the directions to continue growing from itself. It's sort of like in Hellraiser, you have the puzzle box. If you turn it one way, it could open the gates to heaven. You turn the other way, it leads to the gates the other way. And the thing with the Tree of Life is understanding that opening that puzzle box the dark way is the Qliphoth. Opening it the other way leads to the Tree of Life. But to understand both, you must understand both directions. And when you understand both directions, you will quickly see what side you actually want to stand on. And it has nothing to do with the silly different mythologies placed on it by all kinds of different religions, because what this is here, the Tree of Life, is a compacted form of all the ancient magic wisdom knowledge of Sumer, of Mesopotamia, of ancient Egypt, of ancient Greece, of ancient Rome, synthesized. And everything that Kabbalah teaches is fairly much every single diagram of ancient magic and witchcraft that the Romans would once burn you at the stake for or crucify you for. This is part of the importance of it, is that the Jewish people created the Tree of Life as a glyph or a symbol or a blueprint that could be openly shown in around the year 1350. And in this way, all of the ancient ideas were able to slip through, and you have to really understand what it says. So it was like a hidden glyph, as so many other occult things. So here we are today. We're still talking about it, because even though the actual symbol was created in 1350, all of these lessons go back to the Persian Magi, who were the first magicians of all time. They were the first to dance with fire and the first to howl of the goat. They were the first. So look into the Persian Magi, M-A-G-I. The word magus springs from it. Magician springs from it. Magic springs from it. All of it. So, continuing onward. Just as the Kabbalah has so many different traditions and practices that are relevant to man's growth, likewise, there are over 5,000 ingredients in the art of perfumery. Just as perfume displays the essence of the flower, so the soul or spirit of a person can be seen as the essence of his or her body. Certain scents continue to be valued beyond monetary considerations and exert an ageless appeal on the psyche. Perfumes and incenses have been employed in rites for both their physical and metaphysical effects. They serve three purposes in ritual. 1, they provide a material vehicle of fragment smoke for the manifesting energy. That is, they create a service on which to visualize. 2, they are offered as a costly sacrifice. 3, their intoxicant effect penetrates the consciousness. Aromatherapy, therapy by the use of essential oils, has recently become popular. The Kabbalistic system can also be employed therapeutically. Sense can be used to heal faulty relationships to the gods. It's a different form of science. It's an internal science of the imagination. And you can heal yourself just as a medic. The Greek word therapeunion, to heal, originally meant to serve the gods. Thus, all healing takes place in a sacred context. Healing also connotes becoming whole. And this is why the caudacious staff of intertwined serpents of Hermes is the symbol of medicine since ancient Greece. So if you want to round out your psychological and sensual experience, use sense to stimulate the desired qualities. For example, Aphrodite equals aesthetic appreciation equals benzoin, rose, or sandalwood. Hermes equals intellect, storax, amber, spikenard. Another way of using sense in Kabbalah relates to the letters. Each letter of the Hebrew alphabet, all 22 letters, and every tarot trump is a Hebrew letter, and the Hebrew letters are essentially just runes for a masked hieroglyph. And if you pull them apart, it's all Pythagorean number magic. And it's difficult to explain, because if a black magician is listening, you just are going to outright not even care what the Hebrew thing is all about. But think of them like this. The 22 Hebrew letters are more like 22 runes. Just think of it like that. Of course, they're called something else or seen in a different historical light, but they are the same kind of purpose. And unlike the northern runes, where we only kind of sort of know what they're about, these are also about the primal energies that have all kinds of relevance to different faces or masks of Odin or Wotan or Thor or Loki or any of these characters, any of these old legends. And furthermore, also connects to the Celtic folklore, because so much of Celtic folklore was spread over time, and the Viking Age was about 300 years after the Druids, and a lot of the Viking stories are kind of processed, traveled versions of the Celtic stuff. But all this, it was also with the Teutonic peoples, so it's all kind of the same strange folklore, kind of just cut off from each other. And it is also completely relevant to the tree. And if you also learn about the different realms of magic, the 9 realms of Yggdrasil, the world tree, and the Viking culture, well, the tree of life goes to 10, but those 9 are pretty consolidated, and there's a lot that actually keys up and makes sense. So you also have to look at it from that standpoint. Is just, even though it isn't obviously a Viking thing or a heathen thing or a pagan thing as you think of it, if wisdom is wisdom, doesn't matter where the wisdom is coming from. The importance is that it is wisdom and it's relevant. So the only thing that matters is that you find the wisdom within something that you find relevant for yourself, and then you integrate that knowledge to your own perception. And then if something better comes along that changes your mind, or you find a better way or whatever, that's your personal spiritual path. But again, just you could, it's okay to be a hardcore demonic black magician and still understand what the Hebrew letters mean. It's okay to be a Jewish person and understand what the Nordic runes mean. It's okay to be a Native American, First Nation, old school shamanic religion. It doesn't matter. The wisdom is wisdom. So continuing on with this discussion. So each path is a different Hebrew letter or Jewish rune, however you want to call it. Each path has a fragrance, as we said, and therefore each letter has an odor. The corresponding English letters are given in the appendix, which will come later at another time, dear student. It is possible, therefore, to blend scents that literally spell name or words, God names, names of angels and intelligences, or of your significant others. The scent helps you get you on the right wavelength. Some blends are seductive, some are exciting, yet others are tranquilizing. In magic, the practice of practical Kabbalah, perhaps more than in any other area where scents are employed, it is most desirable to have the highest quality ingredients, as well as a working knowledge of their source and use. The more you experiment with blending, the more highly developed your nose will become. Practice and experience will work harmoniously with intuition to guide you into creating truly heavenly aromas for yourself. The Kabbalistic correspondences are broken into 2 main groups: The first group represents the numbers of the spheres, 1 through 10. The second group represents the paths, 11 through 32, which again are the cards of the tarot. Each number of each group has innumerable correspondences, but those most relevant to our purpose include the Kabbalah and tarot attribution, the astrological correspondence, tone, color, and scent. Each sphere of the tree of life represents a discrete state of consciousness and a specific pointed gut instinct. The paths are the means of transition from one to another. Each has a set of symbols used to stimulate the imagination towards the desired condition during ritual. These are the basics for creating and recreating a structured sensory experience. They are used to invoke the force they represent. With the sense, one literally inhales the essences of the gods or of the quality of the gods. In the Kabbalah, the path that Jupiter represents the most has been associated with the Wheel of Fortune, which is the 10th card of the tarot. It has a A-sharp tone to it. And the essence that it has hitched to it is saffron, and also known as karkam. So again, saffron and karkam for the Wheel of Fortune. So in the Kabbalah, all right, is Trump 10, and the Jewish letter is Kaf, K-A-P-H. It is blue in color, such as the Sephiroth is blue. It's known as A-sharp and letter K. Kaf, letter K, the Wheel of Fortune, is the symbol of the initiate, showing that the sorrowful, weary wheel of unconscious life has been transmuted. This is because when you study Pythagorean number expansion through ancient Greece and the Jewish number magic, but also through the perspective of the Bushido in Japan, the different martial arts, you learn that zero, well, it can be seen in a lot of ways. Zero is sort of the moment, like when we're able to completely step outside our bodies and see the outside world through the eyes of God, even though we are still ourselves. It's then we got 1 through 9, and 1 through 9 is the largest expansion you go. Basically 1 to 99.99999%, because nothing is a perfect 10, right? So the idea is that when you have your basic number expansion philosophy, when it comes to the cups, the cups, the swords, the pentacles, which are actually wax. Number 10 is seen as the beginning of a new sequence. It's sort of like the zero of the previous sequence, and now you erect this upper level upon it, because it's sort of, that's why it's the Wheel of Fortune. It's like you went through the whole process and been walked through 1 through 99%, and when you finally hit 10, it's like bing, it's the next, it's like an elevator up, and then it begins a new sequence. And then the final tarot cards after those next 9 are all the final outcomes that happen or can happen. So basically, so think of it as sort of like you've already lived your life, you already have the foundation, all that's been done, and now the next step in life that you're walking off the launch pad of your old life onto the next floor of the building, and it's a whole new labyrinth that you walk into. So that's why it's the Wheel of Fortune. It's kind of like the Fool, but with a full foundation behind it, so that when you actually walk into the number 11, that's why 11 is the number, the key is expansion. It's expansion. It's outwardly, it's all the force of being on this new level and then knowing this next step. So it's sort of like the Sephiroth are the basic primeval powers, and the tarot trumps are like the powers in action, sort of like the electrifying force when given motion. So anyway, so the Wheel of Fortune, it's a really good place to be because it's omnidirectional potential. Because zero by itself is total neutrality with omnidirectional potential. However, the number 10 is you already have the foundation. You're not in the void. You have a whole kingdom surrounding you, one could say. It's all in your mind, of course, though. The kingdom of the mind. And you're able to not only be able to understand that you have all that, but also separate yourself from that once again. To have, once again, that state of you're in the void and all this materialism doesn't matter. Like you've already had it all. It doesn't matter. Once you accumulate all you wanted in life, theoretically, all checked all the old check boxes, and and you're ready for something else in life. That's kind of what 10 is, when you know you're about to step off the platform of that. And then 11, when you walk off, that's what becomes the trajectory. That's like the stone rolling down the hill after a long push upwards. 10 is when that stone is like perfectly balanced on top of the hill, and 11 is when you push it and it goes further from there. So we are at that point, the very top of the hill, and that's what we're trying to speak of. So the Wheel of Fortune is a symbol of the initiate, showing that the sorrowful, weary wheel of unconscious life has been transmuted. Thus one leaves the state of unconscious relationship with the self and relates to a different wheel of conscious relationship. This is expressed in the Orphic philosophy of the Roman philosopher Porphyry. I have passed with eager feet to the circle desired. The circle desired is a more conscious one, and with the Lord of Fortune as rewarder and conciliator. The Greek word here, translated as circle, also means crown. This relates to this Jupiter path as the image of a philosopher king. Ritual crowning used in initiation has to do with proclaiming wholeness by composing the circle or wheel. Qualities associated with this path are ambition, arrogance, benevolence, conciliation, dynamism, energy, enthusiasm, exactitude, expansion, extroversion, fortune, independence, leadership, lucky, magnificence, nobility, optimism, power, prosperity, respect, restlessness, self-assurance, wholeness, and wisdom. Saffron comes from the dried stylus of the flower, Crocus sativus, cousin of the garden crocus. Saffron oil is not commercially available. Even if it were, saffron is one of the most expensive botanical raw materials, and so the oil would be quite expensive. Saffron originated in Western Asia, Asia Minor, and the Eastern Mediterranean, but is also cultivated in Spain, Turkey, Greece, Persia, India, and the Soviet Union. Known to the Jewish folks as Karkom, Song of Solomon 4:14, the crocus was also used by the Greeks and Romans. Even after saffron was imported to England from the East, its price remained high, since it takes 60,000 flower stigmas to make 1 pound of saffron. 4,320 flowers produce only 1 ounce of crude saffron. Saffron was cultivated in Persia as early as the 10th century. It is from the Arab zafir that the word saffron is derived. Used as a dye in Eastern Asia, saffron's yellow color was considered to symbolize perfection. The Greeks also admired its color, but they valued the scent just as highly. Dried stigmas have a peculiar, intensely sweet, spicy, floral, aldehydic smell with an underlying fatty herbaceousness because of the aldehyde saffronol. Since commercial oil is not available, consumers must produce tinctures according to their needs. Essential oil can be produced. It is pale yellow with a strong odor, but it is extremely unstable. Instead, prepare a concentrated 20% tincture from saffron with diluted alcohol over gentle heat. Once again, prepare a concentrated 20% tincture from saffron with diluted alcohol over gentle heat. Blending. Add minute amounts of violet perfumes, narcissus, and neroli bases. Saffron adds great interest to Oriental blends. Since it is expensive or difficult to acquire this product, you may prefer to use other traditional Jupiter-related scents such as cedar, nutmeg, or clove. So again, if you can't find any of what we've been talking for so far with saffron, it is okay to downgrade, one may say, to cedar, nutmeg, or clove. And now we move on to the actual Sephiroth. Sephiroth 4, the color blue, and cedar is the perfect scent. So, known as Chesed, Jupiter. Chesed is known as mercy, ruled by the planet Jupiter and associated with the Greek god Zeus and the top pillar of the right-hand path. It is the sphere of the philosopher king. Chesed symbolizes our spiritual and religious needs, as well as the tendency toward expansion. Qualities of this sphere include increase, improvement, and growth, both internal and external. It synthesizes into insight, knowledge, and understanding, and wisdom into the quality of mercy. In mysticism, chesed is the vision of God as king, resplendent on his throne, quote unquote. Keywords include achievement, benevolence, extravagance, healing, justice, leniency, magnanimity, preservation, and respect. Qualities we can assume by employing cedar include enthusiasm, good judgment, independence, leadership, nobility, optimism, paternalism, philosophical disposition, self-assurances, wholeness, and wisdom. When you consecrate this essence for magical purposes, remember that Shakespeare wrote, "The quality of mercy is not strained." And also from the Song of Solomon, his countenance is as Lebanon, excellent as the cedars. So, description. The most commonly used cedar wood is Juniperus virginiana. There are many other cedar woods in the juniper, cedar, cypress, and related genera, each with a distinctive qualities. One of nature's most handsome creations, cedars grow to great height and spread their branches horizontally for a considerable distance. The evergreen leaves appear in small tufts like those of the larch. Essential oil is produced by steam distillation of the chips and dust of the wood. The main chemical constituent, cedrol, crystallizes in old or cold oil. In old or cold oil. Old or cold. Virginia cedarwood oil is produced in the United States, where it is also distilled. Atlas cedarwood oil comes from Morocco. Still other types originate in Kenya, northern India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Japan, Oregon, Northern California, and Texas. Cedar was considered an imperishable wood by the ancient Egyptians, who thought it would preserve human bodies enclosed in it. Cedar oil was also injected into corpses during the mummification process. The pharaohs coveted it for making the doors of their temples and building ships. Used frequently for coffins, it is still known by some as coffin wood. The fragrant wood was used as incense in the temples, and the oil was included in the most expensive cosmetics of the Egyptians. It ruled their glamour magic. In 2700 BC, a pharaoh sent 40 ships to Tyre to import cedar trunks. The tree was so important that Cheops I sent an expeditionary force to Canaan in 2350 BC to prevent a Bedouin attack that might disrupt trade routes. By 1950 BC, Sesostris I ensured the supply lines by subjugating Canaan and the port of Tyre. Solomon's temple was made exclusively of cedar wood, stripped from the forest of Lebanon. Harvesting by the Egyptians and the Jews decimated the Lebanese forest, which has never recovered. The last trees are believed to have been used for the temple of Diana at Ephesus. This wonder of the ancient world burned wildly on the night of the birth of Alexander the Great. Horace speaks of books being preserved in cedarwood oil and of keeping books in cedar chests. The ancients had a proverb that great writing was worthy of being cased in cedar. Herodotus recorded the cosmetic use of cedar by Assyrian women. They ground the wood with cypress and frankincense, mixed it in a little water, and anointed themselves with this sweet-smelling, skin-softening paste. In more recent times, production of cedarwood oil has increased in the United States. Oil production from Northern California and Oregon stands of Port Orford cedar peaked between the world wars. Lately, most of the cedarwood has been exported to Japan, where it has sunk in harbors to preserve it for future use. The varieties of cedar are so different that they must be dealt with separately. Cedarwood Atlas resinoid and Atlas cedarwood oil, Moroccan cedarwood oil, come from Cedrus atlantica. The resinoid is a highly viscous dark amber to brownish fixative. The absolute is a very viscous fluid that is brownish yellow. They both carry some solvent odor but are not camphoraceous and do not have the sharp ketone top note found in the essential oil. The oil is yellowish to orange yellow or deep amber, viscous, and sometimes turbid. The odor is overpowering when undiluted, having a very woody, camphoraceous smell. There is a sweet and tenacious woody undertone that lacks the delicateness of or depth of florals. East African cedarwood oil. From Kenya, it is very dry, woody, somewhat earthy, with a strong top note. It is the lead pencil odor. It is less balsamic than Virginia oil, similar to Texas oil. Texas cedarwood oil. from Juniperus mexicana, is distilled from heartwood. Oil comes both crude and rectified. It smells pleasant, sweet woody, though somewhat smoky or tar-like. It dries with a tenacious, sweet balsamic odor with a uniform dry-out. Virginia cedarwood oil from the southern red cedar is a shrub or tree that occasionally grows to considerable size. Sawdust is distilled to an oil that is yellow or slightly yellow-orange. Rectified oil is water-white, smelling oily woody, with the sweet balsamic odor of cedar lumber. Virginia oil smells like cedar chests, while Texas oil is sweeter. Himalayan cedarwood oil from Cedrus deodara resembles Atlas oil, with a curious animal note. Japanese oils, Hiba, Hanoki, or Sugi oils, are from the genus Cupraceae. Port Orford cedarwood oil is no longer in production. Cedar leaf oil from Thuja occidentalis is known as Thuja oil and has a scent suggesting wormwood, basil, and sage. Now, as far as blending is concerned, the cedarwood oils are extensively used in perfumery. Their mild, woody, and slightly balsamic odor blends well with sandalwood, vetiver, and patchouli and forms the basis of many household and industrial scents. Cedrol and its acetates provide a mild, woody methyl ionone odor. Atlas resinoid and absolute are used with Bois de Rose oil, Baronia absolute, Calamus oil, Cassie absolute, Cistus oil, Mimosa absolute or concrete, Olibanum, clary sage, vetiver, and ylang ylang. The Atlas products blend with labdanum for woody oriental, woody floral, and violet bases. East African oil is a good fixative for soaps, pine fragrances, and other woody notes. It blends well with rose notes, oriental bases, and moss notes. Used for violet, fougere, and chypre bases as well as woody aldehydic blends for the modifying vetiver, patchouli, and sandalwood. Texas cedarwood oil is the preferred oil in America. It is a versatile blender for ionones, violet, methyliones, cinnamic alcohol, nitro musks, amber and leather bases, pine, patchouli, spruce, and vetiver oil. A blend combining cedar, chesed, and leather gabura would represent the causal plane, perhaps with some added frankincense. Virginia cedarwood oil is available rectified and in fractions. The lightest fractions have a very dry top note, while the heavier ones preserve the balsamic, woody odor of cedronol, another chemical constituent of cedar oil. It is a fixative and cost reducer for vetiver oil, sandalwood oil, patchouli oil, and guaiac wood oil. Okay, that would be good, right? Like that.
But I'd give the world to see that old game of mine. I can't forget that old quartet that sang sweet and old line. Goodbye, goodbye forever, old fellows and gals. Goodbye, goodbye forever, sweethearts and pals. But I'd give the world to see